Welcome to episode number 8 of Rafscast, Tales from MohawkAd. My name is Rafael Ferreira, and I'm your host for this podcast from the advertising program at Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario. This week, I have the pleasure to have a conversation with the Associate Creative Director at Grey Canada in Toronto, Ryan McNeill. Ryan was one of my first students ever when at the college in Canada. His career was an extremely unusual career, and I love his creativity and the passion for the business. And he will speak by itself. And here we go. Don't forget to follow us. And until the next episode. Hello, everybody. This is Rafcast, episode 8. We have here Ryan McNeill. He is the Associate Creative Director at Grey Canada. And we have been in contact. He's alumni from the program. I think he graduated from 2004. So it was 2 years after I entered the college. And Ryan's made some of the most memorable campaigns in Canadian advertising and working with a lot of different people and is well known. And I'm super proud of Ryan. And also we have I stop on his career made through that I will tell you guys this story. This is a super interesting story to tell. Welcome, Ryan.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thank you for having me, Rafael, and thank you for such the kind words. I don't know if I don't know if I live up to that that intro, but thank you.
Well, in my eyes, you do. Let's say that. In my eyes, you do.
Oh, well,
right. Let's get through this the beginning, Ryan. And I remember one part of our college experience when you make. It was 2003 or 2004. We went together to Toronto for the results of the wall competition.
Yeah, that was.
You remember that?
Yeah, 2003.
2003.
Yeah, the Coors Light Win the Wall competition.
It was from the haveanidea.org at the time.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
website.
I know, blast from the past website.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that project? What do you remember about that project? I remember the tattoo. You tattoo for Coors Light, and the brand was a Coors Light.
Yeah, it was for students. Coors Light had that massive brick wall that they were using as a media placement, and they wanted to open it up to a student competition. I think Ignacio, who the founder and the guy who started haveanidea.org.
Yes.
I think he was in touch with those Coors Light marketers or the Coors Light client, and he said, "Hey, let's do this competition on my website." I'm guessing that's how it went because that's how it came about. They advertised it on their website. It was
I remember it was a funny commercial. It was a funny spot.
Yeah. So, I said, yeah, let's work on this. I think that was an important thing when you're a student is to just enter competitions and just keep working and keep trying to win competitions. And so there was a few competitions that I entered that year, and that was one of them. And worked on an ad campaign for that wall. I believe I don't know. I still really loved the art direction. It was just a black backdrop and an arm holding Coors Light, and it was instructions tattooed on the arm that said, if my arm falls off, put this beer on ice. And I guess I had 3 other executions with different headlines. That's the execution that they chose. And it didn't win first. I think it was 4th. I think it got an honorable mention. But yeah, they had us. They invited us down to Toronto. I forget where it was. Was that the I
It
forget
was
what
near
bar.
the wall. I think it was on where is Mountainous today, near the IMAX on the John and Richmond, I think.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
I remember
Was some place there?
it had like half a car on the wall or something like that. It was like a anyways, it was great. It was a great experience. And yeah, and you and I went to Toronto and we had a great lunch and then went to the competition and they announced the winners and that was pretty cool. And I think the one that won that year was it was the image was of the Rocky Mountains and it or no the image was the can a large image of the can and people were climbing the Rocky Mountains on the can. I can That's what I remember from the
Yeah, I
winner.
remember something like that. I
Yeah,
think
something
they choose that one because fits the wall better or something like that. Yeah, but I prefer yours, to tell the truth.
like that. Well, it was fun nonetheless. It was a
It's
fun
a final wall.
yeah. It was a fun competition. But
So, do you think when do you think was the moment when you say, "Oh my God, this is fun, and I'm doing this art direction and copy and putting things together, and I think this is a exciting career to go or exciting path to go." When you think during your school years, or was it during your professional years? What do you think?
I think it was even before. I think
I don't know.
I tell people how I got into the industry, and it's such a cliche way of getting into the industry. But I was sitting on my couch watching a show, and an ad came on, and I thought it was hilarious, and I thought I could do something funnier than that. And I think like that was sort of my intro into or sort of the way I started to think about advertising and then I looked into Mohawk. But I think sitting on my couch, looking at that ad, laughing, being like, "That's what I want to do. I want to make funny ads. I want to make entertaining ads." That I and
Mhm.
then it was I of course at that point I had no idea what was what advertising was about. I didn't know that there was art directors and copywriters and account people and stuff, but all I knew is that hey, this seems like a really fun thing to do, and then in school, obviously, I mean, all through high school and all through grade school, I was always an artist, and so art direction I just naturally leaned into art direction. But that was the moment when I knew, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is awesome.
So,
I took 3 years off of high school, in between high school and college. So, it was one of those things where I didn't know what I wanted to do coming out of high school, and
mhm.
you work a little bit, and you kind of you try to figure out your way, and then I think I knew it at that moment that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I think you enter college or university and with a different mentality. If you let 1 or 2 years pass by after
Yeah,
high school,
yeah.
I think it's a valid experience. Or if you want to travel or work or do something, just to have your mind and really focus on the direction you want to go. I would recommend that somehow. So
Yeah, I would recommend that to anybody. I think anyone coming out of high school, I mean, sure, every situation is different for
of
everyone, but
course,
I think like you can't beat, coming out of high school. And I think like I wish that's one of the things that I did was travel after high school and kind of see the world. But I think like that's super important. That stuff is very important, especially just learning about life. It's
it is the main thing. So
yeah, yeah.
all right, so you graduated from college.
Yeah.
How was to get your internship here? I say I'm here. I have your portfolio and I have your LinkedIn, and I want to say how was the getting your first internship at Push?
So, so that internship at Push was again from if you remember, marketing had the student competitions,
Yes,
and we won an
they
honor.
used to have they used to have student competitions. It's just shame that they don't have it anymore.
Yeah,
Be
yeah,
better, but Anyway, another subject.
That gets into a whole other conversation.
Yes.
But yeah, so they had that competition, and the prizes were internships at a handful of agencies, and we ended up placing in that competition, and we I had reached out, I had looked at the list, and I remember thinking to myself, this I looked at this agency push in Calgary, and I was, they were a really small creative shop. Like, I think there was 8 people in the shop,
Mm-hmm.
and it was led by Darcy Park, Charles Blackwell, and Andy. Andy, I'm forgetting his last name is slipping me right now. In any case, 3 great guys, 3 very creative guys, and I saw their website and I was like, oh, this is super fun work. And then I thought, and it's great. I get to, like, let's travel. I get to travel.
Mm-hmm.
I get to live in Calgary for a couple of months. So I went there. I had a friend who I stayed with, but it was great. So again, entering those competitions really paid off. It landed me my first internship and my foot in the door. And it was a great time there, great experience. I had a 3-month contract with them. They extended
Mm-hmm.
it another 3 months. And then I was supposed to be hired on, but they ended up merging with another agency. And I think I remember it was Christmas time. I went in June, and it was Christmas time at that point. And sitting down with Charles, and Charles was just like, we don't know what's going to happen. We're merging. We think it's better if you go back to Toronto and
For opportunities.
find something a little bit more stable in Toronto.
Mm.
So it was tough. I love those guys. Those guys are great. But in the end, it all worked out.
So from there you went to Colors.
Yeah. So from there I went to well, at the time it was called CCL Group.
Okay.
It was ran out of it was in Halifax. The creative director there was Brian Hickling. Brian Hickling was a pretty well known art director in Toronto. He did some really famous Nike ads. Um, and I don't know if you remember John Murray. John Murray was a
Yeah.
Mohawk student as well.
Yeah.
Me and
Yeah.
John
I remember him.
had kind of teamed up, and we're kind of hitting the pavement and looking for opportunities together as a
Mm-hmm.
team. And we met these really great creatives at Downtown Partners at the time.
I remember. Yeah.
Mark Fitzgerald and his partner, whose name is escaping me again. In any case, Mark reached out to Brian. They knew Brian really well. They kind of put us put a good word in for us with Brian, and Brian came out and met us, and it was sort of this like talent competition that Brian Hickling was trying out, where he was trying to recruit talent from Toronto to come to Halifax. So I don't know if we were the only ones that applied to it, but we got a call from Brian saying we'd love to have the 2 of us there. So we packed a U-Haul and we moved out to Halifax for we were there for 3 years. So
But
and I
then you are actually hired on the spot and
yeah.
started working. Okay. How was the working from internship to a junior, and the difference between the Nova Scotia, Toronto, and Alberta? Did you say?
I think like Calgary was a different experience in terms of an intern. There wasn't that much pressure put on me, and the one thing I think that was great about going to Calgary than going to Halifax is the opportunities were there. It's 2004 at this
Mhm.
time, social, digital. I mean, it's not existent at this point.
I
And
know.
and print. A print campaign was like you hit the big time. You got a brief on your desk that says, "Hey, we need a print campaign." It was like, this is awesome. So I mean, we got a lot of the. Had the opportunity to get a lot of those bigger opportunities in those like Calgary, Halifax markets. And agencies. So it really worked out well. I mean, Halifax, we went to Halifax as sort of Brian Hickling kind of set it up as, this is a great creative team. We're going to give them all the big opportunities. They're going to knock it out of the park. These guys are going to be great. And that's exactly what we got. I think some of the most fun work that I've done in my career was in color. A lot of late nights, a lot of all-nighters, just crafting, trial and error on print, and just
How
really learning
it worked to search at that time for vendors and production houses and boutiques, that kind of stuff, or was everything done at the agency?
No, I mean, you had your photographers that you worked for. Nothing was done in agency back then.
Okay.
As far as I knew, in Halifax, it was. I mean, in terms of like production and we always had a photographer. I mean, in Halifax, there were a lot of times where you had to make opportunities yourself. I remember we did a really great campaign for the wheelchair rugby championships, and it's still in my book.
I saw that in your book. Yes, super cool title.
But that came to light because we created these posters. They needed advertising. They were a client, but they had zero budget. So John and I picked up a stack of posters from the printers, and we drove around town all night putting up these posters ourselves.
Wow.
That was really fun. There was other sort of campaigns that we did that aren't in my book, but a lot of like handmade artwork campaigns where you're just doing stuff on your own. And that's the fun part of it, right? Like it's 2:00 in the morning and you're cutting and pasting construction paper to create this print ad or newspaper headlines to really craft this print ad. It was fun. And then obviously we craft something and then we get a photographer to do the pictures, and it was a lot of fun.
Different times.
Yeah.
It's not so far away ago, but because of the whole technology and involvement that happens today, it looks like a long time ago.
It's funny though. It's like, I mean,
because
that was so long ago. Like, I mean, it feels like decades ago, even though it was only 15 years, almost 2 decades. But not a lot has changed in terms of like getting out, hustling, and just making those opportunities for yourself. Like no one's going to really hand you those opportunities.
That's great.
You really gotta prove yourself and really work for it. And I'm still doing that today. I mean, I'm an ACD and I have my own clients that I work on, and some of the stuff that I work on is like, okay, how can I do this? How can I, how can we make this happen? We don't have a lot of money, so what do I need to do myself to make sure that we get this done? Am I good? We did a Salvation Army spot for COVID. We wanted to do something for Salvation Army, and so we did this spot, and it was myself and a couple other creatives walking around town. Like I walked around here in Hamilton, some other creatives were walking around Toronto, and we were just filming empty streets and kind of these desolate places that usually have a lot of people on our iPhones. And then we pieced together an ad and put it out there. And it's kind of crazy because again, it's just, that was my weekends and evenings and, and my family coming out for the walk, and I'm going around just, with my iPhone, just shooting these interesting sort of scenes and desolate scenes, because that's the only way we could get it done. So you just got to kind of do what you got to do and work hard to get it done.
That part of
Hello?
that. Hi, are you hearing me? Hello, hello, Ryan.
Oh,
Now
there
it's
we
back. Now it's back. Okay, I will cut out that part from. I think we had a luck here.
go. No
Okay,
worries.
so what I think that part of making it happen, whatever how you make it happen, making it happen, it's some kind of skills that need to be in your blood. Don't you think, as a creative? That because some people think it comes easy, but I think that hustle that you're telling me that let's just make it happen, separate stuff, let's create this, and actually making this stuff, be a doer. I think it's a super nice thing that you do, Ryan. And what do you kind of advice you do for
Well,
young students?
yeah,
How
I
to,
think I think that's a really important, not not necessarily a skill, but just an attitude to have.
okay,
And that's one of the things that I look for in any when I see a book, or when someone shows me a book, whether student or somebody junior in the industry. I also see if they include stuff that they do on their own time that's creative. I love to see that. Like, I just interviewed an art director, and she designs on her own time. She designs all this little stuff, and she's an amazing illustrator, and she has some of her like illustrations and paintings that she's done in her book. And and then she also just is a photographer, and she puts that in her book. And it just gives me this sense of like, you know this woman just loves to create, and that's such a great attitude. Like, that they're going to work hard to create something really special, and that just because they can't afford something, or just because a vendor has said no, that they're not going to give up. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
they're gonna look for those solutions. They're gonna try to do it themselves, or they are going to do it themselves, and it's going to be great because that's what they love to do. They just love to create, and I think that's a really important attitude. It is a skill to to draw, and to know how to draw well, and
Mhm.
design and stuff. But I think you need to have that attitude to want to do that, and want to be better, and want to just create things.
Telling me this is exactly the feeling I had from you, Ryan, when you were my student. Yeah, I'm not just saying really. I could really see the fire on your eyes, like, oh my God, let's create, let's do something fun, and exactly as you're saying to me, and
It's
that's what I
exciting.
think with it. Yeah,
It's exciting when you're creating something and you're working hard, and then when you finally finish and you see this final product, and there's such a fulfilling feeling from that. And I think like the process is so exciting for me. I love getting my hands dirty and just kind of making things happen, and creating stuff. It's really a lot of fun.
well, we got the point of career talking about changes. Tell me how you say, okay, so I gonna stop my career in advertising. I want to join the Canadian Army, and
Well,
such a I think it's super cool what he did. Huge respect for people who joins the army, and any part of the army on any part of the Canadian Forces. And I want you to tell me. Of course, we can't do a 5 hour podcast here just so your experience there.
yeah,
Just a very
how
short
long do you
minute
have? I have
trailer.
a lot of
How
stories.
how was that change and how was that experience?
Um, yeah, so I mean, I think I was at a point where I wasn't really happy with uh, the direction of my career at the time. It's not. I think I was kind of. I just wasn't happy, and I remember just thinking to myself, I need to do something. I need to do something new, something completely different. Um,
Mhm.
and my brother at the time was in RCR. He was in infantry in Petawawa, and he kind of just opened, talking to him, and me and my brother would hang out a lot back then. He kind of had just opened up the door to the military, and just kind of, I kind of just saw that world, and kind of saw what it was about. And it's saw more than what movies or TV shows show us. I saw sort of behind the scenes, and it just sort of it intrigued me, and it was just something that I think I'd always kind of been interested in the military, and I think with that exposure kind of piqued my interest more. At the time, I didn't have any kids. I wasn't in a relationship. I had really zero responsibility. Or I wasn't responsible to anybody. So I kind of just said, I need to do this now or never. And so, I made the decision to quit advertising. I enlisted in the Canadian Armed Forces as in artillery. And, 2 months later, I was shipped off to basic training, and I spent 3 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. I was stationed in Shiloh, Manitoba. If you want to know where that is, it's in the middle of nowhere, about 2 hours west of Winnipeg. But it was a great experience. It actually taught me a lot of personal lessons that I kind of learned about myself, and things that I put into practice even today, in terms of just respect and time management, and just sort of discipline. There's a lot of sort of lessons that I learned from the military that I think has really helped me in my second part two of my career, that I was missing in part one. So in this case, the sequel is a lot better than the first movie. So yeah, it
But
was
it's funny.
great.
But it's funny that you. It's kind of a mix of excitement and a spiritual journey.
Yeah,
It's-
it was exactly that. And that's exactly what I take from it. I mean, I never served in Afghanistan. We were in workup training in out west in Alberta, getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan when Stephen Harper pulled the Canadian military out of Afghanistan, and we were kind of the first tour to get canceled. So never had that opportunity. But I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't trade the experience that I had over the 3 years in the Army for anything. It was fantastic.
Well, so you came back and reset your career in a different way. So say now I'm starting in a different way, restarting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was funny when I left. 3 years, advertising changed completely.
Imagine that. Yeah.
I mean, when I left advertising in 2009, or 2008, 2009.
Because you went to Low Roche too.
Yeah, I was at Low Roche, and I had done like maybe one or two kind of little social ideas on Facebook. Nothing really major. I mean, Facebook was just kind of something you went online to kill some time. And there was really, I think Twitter was just starting to become, people were just starting to use Twitter. And there wasn't, like, Instagram hadn't been invented yet, or if it had, it wasn't popular. And so, I left at a time when print was still, print and TV were still the massive opportunities. And I came back 3 years later, and it was like the revolution had ended, and everybody was like, "Well, what can you do on digital and social? Have you done anything on digital?" And it was almost like I was a student again. My book was completely outdated because it was just full of print ideas. I didn't have it online. I just had it in like a little portfolio thing,
Okay.
a little portfolio. And
Great portfolio and everything.
yeah, I had it in the booklet, the physical book.
Yes.
And I actually remember getting advice from a CD at the time where he's just like, "Yeah, you got some good stuff, but I'd really love to see your work on like an iPad or something like." And I was just like, wow, okay, that's wicked criticism. So I uh I remember, but so anyway, so I got an interview at Doug and Surge, and I met Ian Shui, who was the CD at the time, and we went out for coffee, and he just sat down with me, and said, "Listen, I really like your book. I think you're a great art director, but you don't have any social or digital in your book." And I remember just saying to him, like, because I mean, that's what I've been hearing, with every sort of interview that I had, and I just said to him, like, I don't have any social or digital, but do I think I can do social and digital ideas? Of course I can. I'm familiar with the platforms. I know what the internet is. And I just, at the end of the day, the idea is what's king.
Yeah.
Social and digital is just a different platform to speak on. But,
Mhm.
and obviously you have to kind of learn, you have to know how to speak on those platforms. But at the end of the day, it's an idea. Ideas are what's king. But I think, like, I did have to learn those platforms quickly. I came back, and I did get hired on at Doug and Surge, Doug and Partners now, or Doug. I can't remember. I think it's Doug and Partners now, but
Okay, partners, yeah.
yeah, I got hired on there, and I had to learn social very quickly. And again, it comes down to, like, what's the lesson you took away from the Army? Discipline, because that's what I needed. I couldn't mess around. I knew I had something to do, and I went out and did it. And I learned those social channels and how to talk on those social channels, and how to do some cool things on those channels. So, and then I was at Doug for a year, um, and I got hired on at Union right after that. But yeah, it was interesting coming back. It was a tough challenge coming back. Again, a lot
I
of
can
hard work.
imagine. I can imagine. It was super happy for you when I heard that you're back and you're back in the business. I was like, oh my god, it's you really made it happen. So
Yeah,
not an easy feat
I
to
mean,
do.
I had a lot of contacts that I still had from my first round,
Yeah.
so that made it a little easier, obviously. But I mean, I definitely had some uphill challenges coming back that I had to kind of overcome.
Talking about contacts, and that's a perfect situation that you're explaining that you're because of your network you are able to reach for opportunities. How do you suggest we are trying to get our students the best uh, chance to get opportunities, but how it is when they get into the business, how is the best way to them to begin to make their network of people asking for lunches and coffee and get
Yeah,
together with everybody, be a good person. What do
I
you think?
think definitely, like, definitely it's tough, right? I mean, now during COVID, it's extremely difficult to kind of make those connections and say, "Hey, can I come in and meet you?" Or,
Mm-hmm.
can we go for coffee? I think, these phone calls. I've met a couple of students on Zoom so far, and it's been great. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think personally, it's turned out fine. Um, and so I think that, it's just getting out there, and not being discouraged. I think the biggest thing is don't get discouraged, because I think it's very easy for students to get discouraged
With
when
the
they
first
don't get
no.
when they don't hear back, or
Okay.
the person says no. Like, I've had students. I've been guilty of this where a student emails me and it either just gets buried in my emails and I never see it, or B, I'm about to email them back and then all of a sudden my kid who's downstairs, flowers all over the place, something exploded, and I get distracted and I come back and now I'm busy with work and I've forgotten about it. It's one of those things where there's a lot going on in a CD's life. They're extremely busy, and it's
Hmm.
when you reach out to somebody, half of it is timing. I typically would never send a note to a CD on like a Thursday or Friday because they're not looking at it.
Okay.
And I would aim Monday morning, first thing Monday morning, wake up 9 a.m. boom, hit that CD with an email or a LinkedIn message or something. Try to get their email if you can. That's probably the best way to get a hold of them. But like 9 a.m. Monday morning, their emails are clear from the weekend, and Monday, Tuesday are probably the best days. Um, and try to set up that interview with them, or a meet and greet on Zoom or wherever, and just don't get discouraged. Keep trying. The other thing to do too is kind of try to get in with um, somebody lower sometimes, right? Like especially if you're a student, email an art director or like a senior art director or
Hmm.
an ACD, and then once you meet them, just be like, oh, I'd really love to meet so and so, this the ECD or something. Do you think you could set that up? And most times they'll probably do what they can to set up a meeting with them. Like if a student came to me and said, "Listen, I really love to meet James too," I'd be like, "Yeah, sure," and I'd pass their portfolio and name on to James and just be like, "This student really wants to meet you. I think you should make some time." So I think a great approach too is reaching out to a senior art director or an ACD, and then trying to get that meeting to an ECD through them as well.
Good strategy. Yeah, they're super afraid in the beginning, but you don't know. We have a copywriter prof now. And his name is Jeff Petrossi. He's super amazing, and he's doing a super good work on the students on reaching for different people.
Yeah,
I think Wayne is to do his networking thing is good too, and I try my best to get people to actually contact people. But we were doing good on
yeah.
people getting to the industry, I
I
think.
I remember when I was younger, I was in college, just coming out of college, and
Uh-huh.
um, I looked up TBWA, TBW Day in
Yes.
LA, and I looked up their email address and said, "What's the email address?" And I found somebody's email address, and then I said, "Okay, well, I know I know the structure of the email address now, and I know Lee Clow." So I emailed Lee Clow and I just said, "Hey, how's it going? My name's Ryan McNeill. I'm a student in Canada. I admire your work. I admire everything about you.
Mhm.
Um, I'd love to send you my book or just have a call and talk to you about my book." Um, I got his uh, I got his out of office message saying he was on holidays, but and I never talked to him again. I never got a chance to talk to him. But you know, my
Could
attitude,
try it.
my
Yeah,
attitude
could try it.
is always like, just go for it. Who cares? The
Hmm.
worst they're gonna say is either sorry I did. Nobody's gonna be a dick and say no, I don't have time to meet with you. The most they're going to say is, I'm really sorry. Maybe we can set up a time sometime else. I'm kind of busy the next few weeks,
Hmm.
or you just didn't get through, and if that's the case, you give it a week or two and you try again. But
Or they can give you some names too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
call other people and say, "I'm busy right now, but why don't you call this and this person?" And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the worst you can do is not try.
So I remember I was remember some of your work today, and I remember this super funny ad that he did for a union for the agency
Yeah.
itself when people get released for their families. So how was the whole process to make that ad?
That was so we were uh union was agency on the top 10 agency or strategies agency of the year list. And so I guess traditionally, agencies submit a case study video for their agency. And I think, Rethink had started this whole case study video thing with Pink Pony, which was done by a good friend of mine. And so, from then on, it was like, it was game on for all other agencies. So I remember sitting in the boardroom, and, it was the entire agency was in this boardroom, and Lance, Martin, and Sub um, just announced, like, listen, we need to come up with some ideas for what our case studies video is going to be. And then I had just said, I kind of blurted out, um, wouldn't it be funny if, as a reward for making the top 10, you let us see our families? And everybody kind of really laughed pretty hard. And, and it was kind of, okay, that was funny, yeah, ha, ha, ha. And then a bunch of other ideas where we came up with a bunch of other ideas. Lance and Sub kind of said, this is great. This is a great start. Go back, let's see some scripts to some of the other ideas. And so I really love this idea of, like, it's funny that they let us see our families, because at the time, I hadn't really seen my family a lot. So it was kind of ironic that I was working on a case study video about seeing my family, and I hadn't really seen my family all that much. In any case, it's not to say, like, it's not that Union was a sweatshop. It was just kind of funny at the time. So, uh,
I
you
think
know,
I think any agency can relate to that.
yeah, I think anybody that works in a profession where you have to work hard,
Yes.
lawyers, doctors, it's something that everybody can relate to. And I think that's what made it so vastly popular. That's probably one of the campaigns that I think that was my first campaign that went viral, in terms of it was being watched around the world, and news media picked up on it. I think it was CTV came in and did an interview with us, or with Lance, about, the culture, this culture of being of working hard, and, missing your family. It sparked this huge conversation, and that was, like, to me, that was wicked. I was just like, yes, this is awesome. Something that I've created has sparked a conversation in culture. I was just like, this is greater than any award that I could possibly win. I love this. This is why I get into it, to create this conversation, and this reaction. So, in any case, we wrote a bunch of scripts, and I didn't want to give up on that idea. So I wrote out this script, and my partner at the time, Dave Pigeon, he took a look at it, and we reshifted it and rejigged it. And then they put, that idea made it to kind of the end, with a couple of other ideas, and everybody was just like, this is still hilarious. Like, this is the idea we got to do. So that's the idea that we did. So, that was all our agency people. That was all of their families, boyfriends, girlfriends, sons, daughters, husbands, wives. That was everybody in there. There was no actors. Um, and actually, the ending was like such a fun accident. So, we were filming in this gymnasium, and as they were,
The girl crying.
yeah,
Oh my god.
as we were splitting them up, the director had called cut, but the camera guy just kept it. And this this little girl just started crying for her dad. And it was funny because I talked to her dad afterwards. I forget what her dad's name was. And he had just said, "Oh, she cries even when I leave the room at home. She cries." So she started crying, and I was just like, I went to the camera guy, and I'm like, "Are you getting this?" And he's like, "I'm getting all of it." And I'm like, "This is our ending." Because we had this whole ending planned where, we were going to be on the bus, and, we're just outside the bus, and you see the bus pull away, and we're all kind of bummed out. But you saw this, and it was gold. Like you couldn't even think about it. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't even think of it. Like it was such gold that just happened in that moment. And I just turned to the camera guy. I'm like, yes, this is it. This is our ending. We don't need to film anymore after this. This is it.
I remember the exaggerated part that you were in, that you're seeing picture of your son as a toddler, and then he was a grow up guy when
Yeah.
you see him.
Yeah, so that grown up guy was Josh. Josh Day. He's a art director. Well, he's an ACD at Union now, but
Okay,
yeah,
so
that was a funny little bit that we did.
yes.
I think that was Lance that had suggested something like that. He was like, "We need something. We need like a passage of time," and he had suggested this bit, and we loved it, and we put it in there, and it was one of the funnier moments for sure.
But talking about fighting about on your ideas, when, how a junior should have the guts to push their ideas in, on when is the idea, when is the time to give up?
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you had one of those questions about like what's some of the important skills or
Or
what's
attitude, as you
what's
just
what, yeah, what's something like that a junior art director can really kind of take away. And I think one of them is like, I think having an opinion is great. Have an opinion, but don't have an ego. I think is like, the that notion of like, you know, you don't just kind of like want to be there. And I think it's so important to like have an opinion. I want to hear opinions from people because I think, this business is so subjective, and perspectives and thinking come from anywhere. You know what I mean? That it's great to have an opinion, and don't feel afraid to speak up. Don't feel afraid to look stupid or look dumb, because nobody's stupid or dumb. Like that. That's my motto. No idea is stupid or dumb. There are great ideas, good ideas, and not so great ideas, not so good
Mhm.
ideas. But it doesn't matter. That's the whole process. Is like getting through the not so good ideas to get to the good ideas to land on the great ideas. And you need everybody's participation. So don't don't be afraid to give your opinion. If it gets shut down, don't feel don't feel like angry about it, or embarrassed. Don't let your ego get in the way.
Mhm.
Just take it, let it roll off your back, and just say, okay, well, okay, you didn't like that idea. Okay, I got like 100 more ideas. Let's go. You know what I mean? It's just sometimes I really love projects that are a shotgun approach, where you just shotgun ideas up on a wall, and you just see what sticks to the wall. It's some of my favorite projects, and it's so fun because you're literally just thinking of whatever thoughts come into your head, and you're just kind of putting it up, and then you go away and you come back and you say, "Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
remember this
you
idea."
digest a little bit, and
Yeah,
uh,
and then you come back and you're like, "Yeah, I don't know what we were thinking on this one. I don't know what we're thinking. Oh, this one, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this still kind of makes me laugh, or yeah, this is still a great idea. Let's keep going on this." You know what I mean? And but as a junior, sometimes I find that juniors that I've worked with in the past, that they're very precious about their ideas. They don't want to show their ideas because they're kind of afraid that they're going to get killed, or people are going to think like, whoa, this person's clearly not good, which is not the case.
Sounds a lot like school project.
Yeah, which
Has
is not
same kind of
the case.
attitude.
You know, again, it's just allowing yourself to break down that ego wall, or those, that the walls of insecurity, and just say, pardon my French, but just say fuck it. Here it is. Here's an idea. Here's another idea. Here's 10 more ideas. How many more do you want? Because I'll keep giving you ideas. It's like, there's one quote that I love, the kind of, or a fact that I love that really kind of inspires me all the time when I'm looking at a blank page. And when you're going to have this point where you hit a block and you're just like, oh, I can't think of anything else. And it's that the human mind is capable of more original thoughts than there are atoms in the universe. And I'm just like, wow, like that's crazy to think of atoms, these small, microscopic, everything is made of atoms, and our human brain is capable of more thoughts than there are atoms in the universe. So, the idea is out there. You just got to keep thinking. Don't be afraid to throw those bad ideas, because that's what's going to help you get to the good ideas. And
I hope the students are hearing this.
Yeah.
So because right, it's that kind of encouragement that they say sometimes when you say something like this to the students, say, it's just a prof. But hearing from somebody in the industry, it's extremely important. That gives that validation that they should have that kind of persuasive, get the ego off and spread ideas and just thinking about ideas all the time. And
don't nobody in the agency is there to help you. Nobody in the agency is there to help you fail. Nobody wants to see you fail. Everybody, when we hire somebody onto an agency or into the agency, I want them to succeed, and I want to help them succeed. Especially, as you become an ACD or a CD or an ECD, it's your job to help your young creatives succeed. But if I don't know what you're working on, or I don't know any of the ideas that you have, I can't help you succeed.
How was that transition between being a senior director to an ACD at Gray? So you changed then from Union, you went to Gray Canada. And by the way, it's my first agency in Canada too. I worked there in '99.
Oh, is it Gray?
Yeah, 1 year. Yeah.
Who was sorry, off topic? Who was the CD at the time?
It was Ryan McNeill, something like that. He's still there. Yes. I don't know. He was a super nice guy.
Yeah.
I still have Dan on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I became I joined Gray as a senior art director. And then I think a year or two, or 2.5 or 3 years in, they made me an ACD. I've only been an ACD for about 2 years now. I'm still learning, to be honest with you. Like it changes in the sense of like you now kind of have to, you kind of get handed projects to say projects that it's okay, this is your project to run, Ryan. Like James Ansley, our ECD, will be like, Ryan, this is your project to run, so really work with the teams and get them to it. And then at that point it becomes really like a managerial sort of style practice where I'm managing teams, and I'm managing personalities, and I'm trying to get the best work out of them. The one thing that I wouldn't want to do as, somebody who's overlooking the work is actually doing the work. you kind of want to try. And what I still need work on is helping creatives find that great idea, or inspiring them to keep working to find those great ideas. And I mean, that just takes practice, right? Like, and you know, just like everything, leadership skills take work as well. So that I'm still working on that. That's something that I'm trying to work on. It's really new to me, but at the same time, I have my own projects too that I work on myself. That I get a brief, and and I have to come up with ideas and do all the art direction and everything else. So juggling my own projects with the projects that I overlook, it's a balancing act. And yeah, it's there's a bit of a difference, but there's not much of a difference.
Uh, do you think it's hard to think like, oh my God, I need to pass through managing people to from doing it to actually managing people doing it?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's hard because your bias. You have like, and that's what I sometimes need to get over, is my bias towards my own thinking.
I can imagine that.
And it's like, a team will show me an idea and I'll be like, oh, I love it. And immediately I have like 50 ideas, or directions that they could take it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of mine are better than anything else that they not in reality. That's just the way I'm thinking.
I see.
And so it's tough. Like I want to influence sort of where they go or what my thoughts are. Like, okay, so for example, we were doing a project, and an art director was designing this poster. I don't want to give it away too much because it hasn't launched yet, but he was designing this poster, and I had a thought in my head of what this poster should look like. This is the way it should look like. And this was, in my mind, it was like, this is the way. There's no other way. And so, I tried to guide him rather than actually, and in actuality, I did, secretly, I did actually do it myself on my computer, but I never showed it to him. And
Okay.
I never gave it to him. I was like, I wanted to know that the way that I was thinking about it was going to work. And
Okay.
it kind of did. And I was like, okay, well, this is kind of working. I think it needs some more work, but and that's not really good, but I did that on my own time. I did that at night because I wanted to figure that out. But I never gave it to him. I kind of guided him, and I tried to give him some advice, and I gave him some tips, and I showed him some references of stuff that I was thinking about. And and he came back after the weekend, and he had 5 posters set up, and he shared with me 5 posters. And the poster that we actually ended up going with was like, such a beautiful design. And I hadn't even really thought about that. But somewhere in my direction that I gave him, it sparked that. And it was great. And I loved it. And it was like, again, getting over your bias of, no, my way is the only way, and allowing teams to explore, to trial and error themselves is how they grow. And that's what I've been trying to work on, is allowing those teams the opportunity to do that. And I think that's what happened. And look what happened. This art director came out with this really great poster design. I think it looks great. I'm really hoping that project goes through, because it's going to be really fun. But it gets challenged. That's the challenge of it, and that's the difference, I think. Does that?
Yeah, that answers my question. That's a great tip. That's exactly what a kind of a question that I want to ask an ACD. Let's say that. And I think students should say that at one time in their career they could be an ACD or a CD. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And it's good to hear what they would expect at that time. So
yeah, no, it's as an ACD, I think I still don't trust my gut. Sometimes I second guess myself sometimes, and I think I think everybody kind of does, but I think I think a CD and an ECD kind of has a more firm stance. And, I think in their role, they have to be more firm than an ACD, because they're the ones running the shop. So if they're not firm, you kind of have a department that's just, in kind of chaos and all over the place. But, as an ACD, I'm still trying to figure that skill out. And I'm working on it.
Ryan, before we go, so there's 2 sections left. I wanted to ask you about a little bit about 4 different pieces that you did and different clients. One, you're talking about learning how to manage and learn everything from scratch about working with digital at that time, 2009, 2008, when you came back from the military.
Yeah.
And I was amazed to see the work you did for Belvita, for the Twitter campaign with the song.
Oh yeah.
So how was that? How was that thing? How
That was,
you create that?
that was one of the funnest projects that I've ever worked on. That project was so fun. So Belvita Belvita is a morning biscuit. I don't know if anybody's ever had a Belvita. They're actually really
I
good.
had one. Yeah, I had.
The chocolate chip banana is my favorite. But so they had, they're through Mondelez, which is a holding company here in a global holding company. And that campaign came from New York. And when I say campaign, the #MorningWin campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Dave and I's job to come up with an idea that, on social, to celebrate people's #MorningWin. And, so they put a lot of tweets out sort of promoting the hashtag and stuff like that. And it was getting kind of used here and there. And we just thought, okay, it was gaining some traction. But they were just like, we were like, okay, let's do something cool on Twitter. And we thought, we had a bunch of ideas, but I think the one that was really fun was this one. And it was, wouldn't it be fun if we sent somebody a personalized, or sent people a personalized song, commemorating their #MorningWin. And so, this is one of those projects where, we had that was the idea. Okay. And as we were executing, as we were going into execute, we just started building on the idea, and the idea just started building. So, at first I think it was going to be, we'll start tweeting people back. And then it was like, no, why don't we send songs back? Well, who's going to do the singing? Oh, well, maybe we get a band. Well, a band, what if we got like a singer? Well, what if we get a one-man band? And it was just like, from there, it just took off. And I loved so we found this guy, Bandaloni. He's a one-man band guy. He's super talented. And we were like, this is great. And then it was like, okay, Shin, we went to a bunch of production houses, but Shin Sigunu, who's like, I don't know if you know Shin, Ralph. He's like crazy, legend in Toronto for photography and film. He's massive, and he owned Shin Studios, which is now
Free. Name rings a bell, but I don't actually personally know him. Yes.
Yeah, and so he had never really done something like this, where it was like, because he was like, okay, well, what are we filming? And we were like, well, we're filming this Bandaloni guy, and we're gonna be answering tweets in real time, and he's just like, he's an older guy, and he's just like, real time, and we're just like, yeah, in real time, like we're gonna be responding right away, and he's just like, how are we gonna do that? Like, what's where we got to film, then we got to edit and production and audio. What are we doing? And we're like, no. There's no time for that. You're just filming it, putting it together, and we're sending it out. And he was like, he thought, he was just like, yes, okay, I want to be a part of this. So they built this stage. They built this stage, and we started piecing together like this design for this thing. I just thought, okay, we got to make it look like a stage, and there's a curtain, and then we were like, let's just be wacky and funny, and let's just have these, funny, like free stock images in the back that kind of relate to the song, but they're just kind of funny stock images that no one in their right mind would ever buy or use.
Okay.
And so we had everything there, and so we that morning we did it for 4 days, and I got to hand it to my copywriter Dave Pigeon. He was amazing. Like, we would get tweets in, and within 3 minutes, he had written a personalized song. We're going over it with the Bandoloni guy. The Bandoloni guy is memorizing it. He's putting together like a little guitar riff and sort of a bit of like musical riff to it. I'm looking for stock images that we can put behind it. We're trying to piece everything together. Wow. And within 10 minutes, we're now filming. We filmed it. We give it to the guy, to the online guy right away. No editing, just straight to the online guy. He cuts that one song out, puts it on this green screen stage sort of thing, outputs it, and within 15 minutes, we had 15 to 20 minutes, we had sent the personalized tweet back with the song. And we did I think we did something like 85 of them. So Wow. It was crazy. It was nuts. But it was a super fun morning, super fun mornings. There was 4 days, 4 mornings that we did. It was
and got a lot of attention, isn't it, for the campaign? A lot of people.
Yeah, it did. It did. I think I think what it needed more promoting. The hashtag needed more promoting. And I say this all the time. The one thing that I think clients sort of fail to realize is that you can't just put things out on the internet and expect that people are going to see it. There's so much on the internet. You need the money to promote it and promote it properly. And I don't think it was ever really promoted properly. And I don't say that that's why the idea failed, and I'm not even saying that the idea failed. I just think maybe it could have been a little bit bigger than it actually was. But in the end, I think it got a pretty big response. Belvita went from 30 Twitter followers to 6,000 Twitter followers in those 4 days. So, I mean, that's a pretty good jump in following. So, yeah. It didn't.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I saw it. I was laughing myself with the songs. I was seeing the video. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so funny."
Yeah,
this is extremely funny. I will actually. Can I? I will pick up your link for your portfolio and put in the end on the description.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so people can actually see it. This next project that I wanted to talk with you, it's I think you work with another Mohawk alumni, Corey Hansen.
Yes.
For the WSIB Day of Mourning. So mourning. So I want you to get through what was the streetcar idea and the typeface idea. I think both of those ideas were super nice executed, and I think it's stunning to see that streetcar on the street. Everybody stop, and it really gives the impression of make people think. Same thing with the typeface. I want you to give a little bit of your 2 cents on how was that process.
So that was one of my very first projects as an ACD. So Corey and Oscars, who went to Mohawk, Oscars, they were working on it. It was their idea. And we kind of helped, me and my partner at the time, Ryan Lawrence, we kind of helped them shape the idea and kind of helped with the art direction and just kind of really putting that idea together, especially with the street art. Um, with the with the type, Oscars had this notion of like he really wanted to do something cool with like their silhouettes, and he was working a lot with the ECD Joel Arbe at the same time, and we were all sitting in a room, and I remember Joel just being like, "Well, what if we put the silhouettes in like a font or something?" And we created this font, and we all thought that was great. So
Mhm.
we the three of us worked on those fonts, and actually like helped with the fonts. Actually, Oscars did an amazing job photoshopping a lot of those fonts. He did all the comping himself on those fonts,
Mhm.
and he really did an amazing job. He is a technical sort of wizard, and really just kind of pays attention to details. He's almost a machine in that sense. Like that was one of the things he was great at, was just finding little details and perfecting them. And what's kind of crazy is that a lot of all of those silhouettes, they
Mhm.
actually do look like photos of um, they actually do look like the photos of the deceased, that the photos that we had gotten of people that had died on the job, which is crazy because we had a photographer come in and he took everyone's photo in the agency. And what
I
Oscar did was he was able to piece bits and pieces of different people from the agency to look like the people and so it was uncanny. Some of them are just uncanny, where you're just like, that looks like a spitting image, like, because you can kind of see little details,
Mhm.
silhouettes, and it was like, I just remember being blown away, just being like, that's a spitting image of the gentleman that died on a job. Like, it looks so much like him. The bus, the streetcar was a really fun project. Again, it was an overnight project. That was all done overnight. The filming of that, which was great. Super tiring, especially like, I find, as an art director on a shoot, I really get energized by moving around, sticking with the director. Really, like, I don't get that tired during overnight shoots because I'm always running around and looking at stuff and
Mhm.
thinking about how can I make this better and talking to the director. And then as an ACD, it kind of shifts, and you're still paying attention. You're still constantly trying to think of, how can you make this better? What can you do? What advice can you offer? What can you see that might help? But at the same time, too, you're kind of sitting there with the clients, and
Mhm.
you're kind of doing sort of the manager and position, where you're just kind of, you're making sure the client's all right. You're making sure that the client's happy, and that they're being paid attention to, and but at the same time, you're also focusing on what they're seeing. So it was kind of different. So it was a really long shoot for me because I wasn't off running around with the director and whatever. It was, we were kind of in the back of we were in the back of this sort of bus, this mini bus that had been set up for us, and I was sitting with the client through most of the night. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, it was still a really fun project, and it was a really great cause. And I got to hand it to our client WSIB, because when some people ask like, "Oh, what sort of clients do you have?" and I mentioned, "Oh, the Workers' Safety and Insurance Board of Ontario," and people are just like, "Ugh." Like, but in actuality, they're one of our most fun clients. They love great creative, and that was a huge leap for them, to do a project like that. And I'm glad they did, because that got a lot of press for them.
And that's what it's all about. I think it's the getting clients that are nobody thinks about working with them in an effective way.
Yeah.
Doing that is the hardest thing to do, and I think you guys did an amazing job on that campaign. Talking about clients, doing it clients for the good clients, they're talking about for a good cause. I was amazed to see the tour campaign and the open house campaign you did for the Salvation Army, and
Yeah.
that both campaigns were extremely well executed and really gives a chill on you when you think, especially when you think about Canada and what kind of a truths that you brought in to the light with that campaign.
Yeah, I think I think you know, Salvation Army open house is probably, you know, one of my, if not my favorite project in my portfolio. Just, I think when we started working on that project, that was the first year of the new strategy. And the new strategy for Salvation Army at that time was poverty isn't always easy to see, because, and it started to focus less on homelessness and more on hidden poverty and, families and Canadians that, were living in a home but are just barely scraping by, and there's, I think it's like 1 in 8 families can't even afford to put a meal on the table. You know what I mean? Or like, 1 in 7 families are one bill away from being homeless. And you can walk down your street and 1 in 7. That's a crazy stat. That means you can walk down your street and every 7 houses, you know, somebody's struggling in a sense, right?
Mhm.
And so, but you can look at their house and, you wouldn't really notice. You wouldn't know anything. You wouldn't know any better. You don't know what's going on inside. On the outside of the house, it could look perfectly normal, but on the inside was a much different story. And so we were kind of like, well, what can we do? How can we show that, like, you know, how can we show that poverty is hidden, and people in their homes are living in poverty? And that's when we thought of, we didn't think of like, oh, well, let's do a TV ad. I mean, that was definitely on the table, let's do a TV ad, let's do a print campaign. But it was like, again, just thinking non-traditionally, it was like, let's hold an open house. Let's stage an open house. So, we found this house. We worked on it that weekend, or that Friday. We cut the grass. We had somebody come and repaint it and stuff, because it was a
Well,
house that was going to be, to set it up and to set up.
so we stayed everything to be perfect. I don't
Yeah,
know.
to set it up and to stage the idea, we couldn't obviously use a real home. We found a home that that was being torn down or demolished, and they were going to be
Oh,
rebuilding another home up on it. Like they were just demolishing it to rebuild a new home. So I think like that was like a month away or something like that, and nobody was living in it. So, we said, can we use this? And they were like, yeah, it needs a lot of work. So we did a lot of work on the outside, and then we went to work on the inside and staged the inside completely different. And then that weekend, the Saturday and Sunday, we put I created this open house sign, and, we hosted an open house, and people came from off the streets, just people walking by that were just curious to see it. And, we got all these people in, and then inside there was, kind of these, desolate scenes of, like, of poverty. So, that kind of just gave stats. So, there was one stat about, how 1 in 3 kids, or I forget some of the stats. Some of the stats are um, escaping me at the moment. It's been so long since I worked on it. But, we had these little plaques, and the plaques had stats, and by the plaques were sort of, a visual aid to help reinforce that stat throughout the house. So, and we set it up a lot different. And I think, there was some shock when people came through to be like, well, it looked nice on the outside, but this is this is not what I was expecting. So yeah, it was a great project to work on and a great cause, and it's probably one of the projects that I'm most proud of because I loved the idea. The idea was, poverty isn't always easy to see, so we held an open house to open people's eyes to the realities of poverty in Canada, which was like, it was it's one of those you don't come across them all the time. You try
No.
them, but you don't. But it was one of those ideas where you can perfectly describe it in a sentence, and it's great. And I loved it. It's one of my favorite campaigns that I've worked on. Yeah.
Ryan, it's being such a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah.
I will post a link to Ryan's portfolio, Ryan Mcneil, and there's a lot of different great campaigns there, and he's at ACD at Great Canada. Can I tell my students to send their portfolio when they had a chance?
Definitely. Always.
And let's see if
And
they do
again,
it the right way.
if I don't get back to you right away, email me again in a week or two. Again, it's be resilient. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. It's very competitive trying to get in. So work hard because the ones that work the hardest are going to get their foot in the front door the first. So yeah, but
Great for Ryan. Thank you very much.
thanks, Raphael. Yeah, it's great to see you again. I'm
Nice
so
to see
happy
you.
that yeah, we got a chance to talk. I hope.
Oh, we need you when this is all over. I'll pay lunch this time, man. Okay.
Okay.
All right. This is Rafcast, episode 8. We're coming back next week, and please follow us here in Spotify. Bye bye.
See you.
See ya.